Hi Mark,
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I don't know if that's relevant to say by the time this podcast goes out, but...
It should be like by the 13th.
Okay.
Halfway through January.
Right, that's cool, that's cool. We were just talking about, I got an email through the other day from an unknown source saying that we're in the top 100 podcasts in franchising, number 43.
Amazing news.
So I don't know how they qualify that or who the news is coming from, but yeah, thank you, FeedSpot.
Thank you, FeedSpot, if you're watching.
Yeah, so
It's nice to be mentioned.
It is, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about marketing trends for 2025, or just a general chat over how we see the marketing landscape in franchising, I suppose, over the next 12 months.
Cool. You've made more notes than I have because you bought a laptop.
Well,
So
I suppose, as
off.
always, when talking about marketing and franchising, there's two elements, isn't there? You've got the marketing for franchisees and then obviously your local marketing for franchisees. Sorry. Yeah, so marketing for franchise recruitment, marketing for local. I suppose if we start with franchise recruitment, I think 2025 will be quite similar to 2024.
Yeah.
And probably 23 and 22. And it just feels like since COVID, like we always talk about, I always used to do the updates of, the franchise recruitment update. And we look at the trends of like when the traffic's higher and lower and different times of the year and how it compares to different years. The reality is that I think since COVID, the trends have disappeared slightly. They're still there a little bit. I still think you have more traffic at the start of the year and it dips down towards the end of the year. But I don't think you see the big rises in January like you used to, or the big falls in December like you used to. I think it's a bit more static, like there's traffic all year a little bit more. That's certainly what we found, because looking at kind of data in December, there was still quite a lot of lead flow for franchise recruitment during December. It has boosted up in January, definitely. But I'm not sure it's quite, it used to be more start-stoppish, I think.
Why do you think it's more sort of a level now then?
I don't know, but I just think that trend has leveled out slightly. Really hard to say, but also I think, we used to talk about year on year how the traffic around franchising changes and how it compares to previous years. And I think the reality is over the last few years, it's been pretty static. Yeah. I don't think it's increased. I don't think it's gone down. There was traffic come back quite strong after COVID, and then it's kind of just stayed at that sort of levels. When comparing it back to 10 years ago, there is less overall traffic in franchising, but year on year at the moment, it's quite static. As we always talk about, when there's uncertainty around, it doesn't help people looking for franchise opportunities. You can plot different uncertain things that have happened, and it tends to lower the traffic. And ultimately, we've got a consistent flow of uncertainty every day, really.
Like even with like the UK government changing and them getting like an all right majority, you think that's going to be all like reliable for the next like 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. But then like Trump gets in and he's, I think, just inconsistent. So you don't know what's going to happen day to day.
No, Trump. And I think then also within that, the last budget created a lot of things for small businesses which are going to be challenging. So that's going to be a bit of uncertainty in people's minds. The job market is still strong. Maybe that changes this year. I don't know. But I think while the job market's strong and there's still lots of uncertainty around, I think naturally that traffic of people looking at franchising is not going to change. Like we've said before, I think it almost takes certain uncertainty to flip it. So maybe it does take, we're not advocating this would be great, but maybe it does take a big recession or a big event or suddenly lots of jobs and redundancies to happen to suddenly hockey curve that amount of people looking at franchising. Yeah. But I think until there is that type of event, I think it's going to be quite static. But that, I don't know if that's a negative. I think there's still lots of people looking for franchises. There's lots of people growing, recruiting. I think it's harder now than it was 10 years ago because there is a little bit less traffic, and there's probably more competition for those people looking at franchising, like more franchise opportunities. So I think 2025 is going to be similar to 2024.
I don't know if it's because I'm sort of in the franchising world now, but I do think that there's more of a awareness of franchising than there was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm skewed by just because I'm in it.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard when you're in the kind of echo chamber of franchising to quantify that. and I don't know how you do quantify it. There's not as many people actively searching for franchise opportunities now as there were 10 years ago. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the awareness around franchising isn't growing. I suppose they're two slightly different things, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe people are aware of it, but just not making that move yet.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's certain trends which are really growing in franchising. You know, the multi-unit, multi-brand franchisees, that's continuing to grow massively. You know, if you're a brand that attracts those type of franchisees or want to, that's still the big opportunity. But I think there's lots of brands out there. The brands that I see that recruit really well and are doing really well over the last few years are the ones who are really consistent with their marketing, really good at getting their message out there. They have a range of activities going. They're not relying on one channel. They're really good at getting their story across about the opportunity in the brand. I don't see enough storytelling, I think, in franchise recruitment in general. And they're people that try new things and are looking at other avenues, where I think brands that have struggled since COVID are probably brands that have always done the things that worked for them 10 years ago and are still relying upon those things now, you know, whether it be portals or whatever worked 10 years ago doesn't necessarily work now. And I think you've constantly got to be kind of innovating, looking at where you can generate that interest and inquiries.
I was working with a company towards the back end of last year that they just started doing video. And it's because like the guy who ran it had just retired and then the son taken over. And like they were saying that we still do our like accountancy stuff on like written spreadsheets. So it's like we need to sort of start changing everything over. So it's interesting seeing like there's still businesses running and operating like that.
Yeah. I think so. I think one of the things post-COVID actually, or one of the things I sense, I haven't really got any, when it comes to franchise recruitment, I haven't necessarily got any evidence to back this up. But I think is my sense is that I think shows have come back a bit. We go to all the shows now. And I think the brands that have consistently done the shows, show on show, year on year, have, if you measured them against brands that don't, have probably outperformed brands that don't. I sense that, and I know lots of brands that do really well out the shows, and I think with all of the other channels becoming very saturated and the overall people coming down, shows that place where you can get face to face with people, which doesn't happen as much. My sense is the shows have over the last couple of years strengthened as part of that process, and I think it's something which the successful brands are doing.
The people I've spoken to at the shows that do well out of them are doing other stuff as well. Yeah. So it's like when they get to the show, it's an opportunity for people to come and meet them. When they already know them. And
it has to be that rounded thing. Like I say, that you can't be relying on one channel. You've got to be doing lots of things. You've got to be innovating different things. If you can, you know, looking outside of the people, looking for franchising as well. I know we talk about that a lot, but is there other ponds you can fish in to find people? I think you have to be trying all these different things at the moment in franchise recruitment to find what works. And there isn't one kind of thing that fits, but I do think we mentioned there, like the storytelling, it's still a massive, like you mentioned video. I still think it's really underutilized in franchising, like the story on video of brands, personal brand stories on video. That to me still seems really underutilized in franchising. I don't know what you think.
You mentioned like personal brand stories. I think like when I've spoken to franchisees and I ask them like why they joined that franchise, a lot of them always say it's because of the franchisor. Yeah. And usually that's like strong franchisors, and that, like people know who they are. Like other franchises know that franchise because of the franchisor. Yeah. And it's like, can I mention names? Yeah. So like Ken Deary, Right at Home, people always said Ken Deary. Teslon, they always say Ryan. Yeah. So like ones like that where it's like they're front and centre of the marketing all the time. They're the ones like that.
Yeah, it's really logical when you think about it, because when someone buys a franchise, they're obviously investing in the brand. Like that is a massive part of franchising. That you're investing in the brand, but you have to have trust in the franchisor. I personally think more that's even
like John at Fast Signs as well. Like people sign because of John.
Yeah, it's bigger than just the company brand, and I think video is a way of getting that across, like building that trust, getting the message across and the passion across for the brand. yeah, it's so essential. I think in a time when there are lots of franchise opportunities, getting that story across front and center is so important.
Yeah. So talking of like John at Fast Sons as well, did you see the video they did just before Christmas?
Yeah, that was very good.
Like the Gen Z.
Yeah, I didn't understand anything he was saying.
I didn't understand either. I don't think he did. But it's still funny. And like just him being like putting himself out there. We shot some videos at the convention where he was like in it. So I think it's positive as well. So people that are pushing themselves to be like the face of it. Anne-Marie does it. Did he dance?
Yeah.
Like that's the reason people sign up. So yeah. They've got to take up that opportunity to like put themselves as the face of it. And I know some people don't like doing that, but it does work if they do. Yeah,
I think it's so important. And again, that's probably one of the reasons shows work, because people can go and meet and build that trust with people directly. And video, okay, it's not as powerful as meeting someone face to face, but it's kind of the next best thing, isn't it? It's where people can start building trust with someone talking. I still think it's massively underutilized. We've probably been saying that for 10 years. So, but it does feel like...
the ones that do it, it works.
Yeah, so, So I think that's kind of a big part. And I think actually when talking about... I've been thinking about 2025 and like marketing trends and things that franchisors could be doing or thinking about, and we've got a few different things to discuss. But one of the things which is just short form video in general. So just observing my wife and the way she now consumes content, I got to admit, I don't think I do yet, but I think I'm in the minority. When you're on a platform like Instagram and Facebook, and you're watching these short form videos, and I can just see how addictive it is, because then the next one comes and the algorithm's tuning into what you want and then just showing the next thing, and people just scroll through these videos. I don't think people are making enough of that, because that's where attention's gone to, hasn't it? Like people are probably spending more time doing that than they are watching TV or reading, you know, literature that you might be marketing and those kind of things. Like to me, that's a big area now that brands need to be looking at, both from a franchise recruitment, but even probably more so from a customer point of view, like being found when people have all of their attentions on their device looking at those videos.
Yeah. And like using clips from stuff like this as short clips. Like I know through my own, like I do the film photography podcast with Ben, and like on YouTube Shorts as well. Like a year ago, I wouldn't go near them. I wouldn't watch YouTube Shorts, but now I do find myself scrolling through the short videos on YouTube, and like you can link them up to your big video, your longer form video. So, and we do see people going from the short ones to the long video. So I think that works as well. So having the short versions, like the little clips, this could be a clip, and then linking back to the main video. Yeah, you got to start doing that as well. So it all starts with just like having a strategy and thinking about what you need to do. Yeah, and you don't need to think, oh, I need to make short videos. You can make like a long video, and then there's 6 short clips you can post out of it. But you're right, people are watching those short videos. It's where the attention's gone, isn't it? Like I always think from a digital marketing point of view, you're always trying to think of where people's attention is. And I'd love to know the percentage of time people spend on social media just in those videos. Like I don't think people are going down their feeds as much as they once were. They are in these videos, like watching them. And the algorithm's so powerful, isn't it? Because I see a lot of, the reason I think it could work, I see a lot of business related like videos when I'm scrolling through, and the algorithms they're the kind of things that I would watch. So if someone's looking for a franchise opportunity, there's a really good chance that if you're producing that kind of content, it could show up. But to show how powerful the algorithm is, I tend to see more than anything videos of snakes. Okay, interesting. So, I didn't see that coming. No. So really randomly, a couple of Christmases ago, my wife's Australian, so we were in Australia. Yeah. And there were a few snakes about, like there is in Australia. They're completely fine with it. And I kept seeing these vans of snake catchers going around. So I remember looking them up. And there was one particular guy who's a snake catcher where I was, who basically posts a video of every snake he goes to capture. Now, where they are, they get like pythons, but they get eastern browns, which are like one of the most deadly snakes in the world. And he's just going into people's houses, like picking them up. And I watched a few videos of it, and I was like, this is really interesting. And then suddenly I now get videos of all these different snake catchers, and weirdly, I quite like watching them. Yeah. And now you can see how the algorithm draws you in, because suddenly I now see snake catchers in America and South America and South Africa. And but I'm not totally sure that's relevant to what we're talking to, other than I think if you've got people who are looking at business opportunities, that they are surfing through that type of content, that's where these short form videos can be
can be so powerful.
Yeah, and they're easy enough to make if you're doing like longer form stuff as well. So
yeah, like how many people are creating long form content and not making enough of the short videos, including probably us with like what we're doing
we
here.
want to start doing that this year. Like Helen's on it with
Yeah.
Coconut Industry, so that's something we are going to be doing.
So
I've got all the stuff to be able to do it. Like I'm using Opus Clip for like my film photography stuff. So like, there's no reason I can't do it for this.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think that's something for 2025. I just think the attention of people going into those videos, that's growing. And I think the platforms know that. It feels like Facebook, Instagram, even Twitter now, I've noticed, well, X, they get you quite quickly into the videos. And then
LinkedIn's doing it as well with the short form stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I haven't really done any of that yet. Yeah. But
so I think that's a trend for 2025. Is there any other video trends you can think of this year you think are going to be...
Like the LinkedIn short videos, I've not really delved into that yet, but I noticed it over Christmas, and I'm not sure how new that is because I haven't been on LinkedIn a lot recently. But
it's going to be the same thing, though, isn't it? I think all these platforms, they
just want to keep you on there. Then
they want to keep you on the platform. They want their algorithm to show you relevant content. If the LinkedIn shorts come in, that could be a game changer for franchise recruitment. So it's definitely one to keep up.
Because it'd be like relevant stuff to LinkedIn as well.
Yeah,
so.
that'd be a good episode.
Yeah.
Some other kind of trends for 2025, like general. It's so hard now not to talk about AI when it comes to any trend.
When you said we're going to do 2025 for trends, I was like, well, we'll talk about AI at some point.
Yeah, and I don't even know where to start with, like, what could happen with AI this year and what trends it could have. And other than I still think we're in the learning process of AI. And, you know, I think probably going back 18 months ago, people would have felt it would have transformed the business world by now, and it hasn't quite, but it's going to at some point, but it always takes a bit longer than we think. Stephen Bartlett at the BFA conference, like, I thought he would be very bullish on AI, saying how everyone should adopt it now. Like, if you're not doing it now and it's not adopted into your business, you're going to be missing out. But he was actually quite the opposite, which was reassuring, because it was more like how my mindset was, more that now is the time you have to be playing with it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have it, you have to be aware of it, you have to try things with it. But it probably is too early to be adopting and putting AI or investing heavily in AI things now, because there's so many mistakes to be made and the systems have got to get so much more sophisticated. So I think with AI this year, it's the year to continually just be using it as much as possible.
Yeah.
To test using it for different things. I use it for a range of different things.
Yeah,
now.
What do you use it for? So I use it for a lot of different things.
Yeah, like I find I used it the other day for. I had to get a font onto a landing page, which is something I've always found really difficult, like a custom font. And I put it into ChatGPT, and it told me how to do it. And I never thought about uploading it to Dropbox and then installing it into WordPress. And then I gave it the link from Dropbox, and it redone the link to be exactly what I needed to put in. It just worked. Yeah. And that was something that I used to play around with for ages, and that just worked. I think very basic coding things, where I kind of know a bit and I know I can do something, but it used to take me a long time. It just does instantly. Like, it's incredible for things like that. I've used it for data, like giving it different types of data to compare. And doing narrative around that, it's amazing. So many different kind of things. And
that's interesting.
What I really want to, like, within Coconut this year, we spoke about it when we were together at Christmas, but really want to encourage the whole team to be thinking almost every day, like, how do I use this and try using it more? So we're investing to make sure everyone's got like a paid ChatGPT account.
Yeah.
That's kind of on their computer all the time. So they're actually thinking, right, I've got to do this. Is this something that I could get some sort of help with? I'm not saying ChatGPT could do it, but it might be able to reduce the time and then sharing those ideas. Because I just think every business now needs to be almost playing with this all the time to work out where it could be used moving forward.
Yeah. I've used it in a number of different things. So as well as like ChatGPT, I use that for like doing YouTube descriptions. So it's not necessarily people would read the YouTube description, but it's more to tell YouTube what that video is about, so it gets seen by the right people. And then help like come up with YouTube titles, so like titles that people would click on. And then I've used something called 11 Labs that clones audio. So like if I've recorded some audio, but there's like a dog barking in the background, for example, you can like clone that person's voice and then type in what you want them to say, and it kind of fits, but that's developing and that's getting there. And then use it for thumbnails as well, for like on like Photoshop and Canva and stuff like that. You can generate stuff like if I wanted to use my photo here as a thumbnail, but I didn't want this microphone in, you could get rid of the microphone and I just have my black shirt on. So,
and I think that's the thing. It's all these small. At the moment, it's all these small things that can save 40% of your time doing a task.
Kind of rub things up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I thought of another thing. I used it for presentation with the team at Christmas. I always create graphs of like just arrange different graphs of data of how we've done over the year and things. And I probably used to spend 3 or 4 hours doing that, like creating the graphs and crunching the data and working out the percent. And I put last year's graphs in, then this year's data, and it just worked everything out and created the graph images exactly the same as last year's within 10 minutes. Yeah, that amazed me. Like,
you did that in the car on the way there, didn't you?
Yeah,
did you spend the rest of the time just having a little snooze?
Yeah, pretty much. But I think that's the thing. So I think AI, I mean, when talking more, I suppose specifically at AI in marketing, I think the platforms now are doing more and more AI advancements in terms of targeting. Both Google and Meta now are really prioritizing users to use AI for them to go and find people that would be interested in your product or service rather than people who are searching for your product or service, which I think is really interesting. And we're starting to see those types of targeting working really, really well. They're starting to move a step forward where they almost are encouraging you to allow AI to create the content for the campaigns as well. So you might say, here's my advert, here's people I want to reach. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll go and create variations as advert if we think it's relevant. And Meta are starting to turn that on as a standard. You can turn it off, however. And that maybe one day that will be brilliant. But at the moment, that is not something I'd be encouraging people to do. We actually were working with a client the other day who sent in what one of their franchisees had seen their adverts. And basically Meta scanned the site to try and create a range of other headlines for this franchisee's ad. And one of the adverts it created was about franchise opportunities, but it wasn't advertising the franchise, it was advertising the franchisee's own business.
Okay.
So it shows you how it doesn't have that kind of human knowledge to say, well, actually, this isn't what this advert's about. So I think there's things like that where it's advancing, but it's still really early days.
I saw something weird the other day about... it was about like image generation, and they said if you try and get it to like generate an image of a watch, say in like 6:15, you won't be able to do it because all the images of watches are 10 past 10, because it's like that's like all the images on advertising of watches are, because it's like the most like best looking like type. And it looks like a kind of a smiley face kind of thing on a watch. Yeah. So like, it doesn't know how to do it, so you have to be really specific like to get it to work. So there's little things like that where there's like it's not quite working yet, even like down to image generation and stuff. It's just
and I think that's the thing. So for me in 2025, it's another year of, there's going to be places to integrate it. I'm sure as the year goes on, it's just going to advance so fast that by the end of the year we'll be talking about different parts of AI. But I just think now everyone should have some sort of AI chat on their computer that is there all day, and you're just playing with it, using it, seeing what it can do, asking it questions. I found so many different things it's done in my working day, which has sped things up, and I think that's the key at the moment, isn't it? Just playing around with it and being aware of it.
I'll tell you where I'm a bit sick of it, and it's not really marketing based, but like where it generates images that are clearly like bollocks.
Yeah.
And it's like football related ones where it's like someone, like it's just totally made up. Yeah, I'm sick of it, fed up of that.
Yeah, well, that's going to be like consumer behaviour with AI is going to be interesting, isn't it? Because I know going back to video, which is, I was going to say this earlier actually, it was one of my notes, but I think why I think video is so important in 2025 is because at some point consumers are going to turn off from AI content. So you just said then, like AI images, you're already switching off from, like they might have been a bit of a novelty at the start, and now you're like, I can totally tell it's being made by AI, and you switch off from it. I find I'm a bit like that with content as well. Like you can tell if something is AI generated. There's just something about the wording like that it's been, and I kind of read it and I'm a bit
flowery and like
like it. There's just something, and I think that's why content which has been authentically made and people can 100% say, well, I know that's authentic, I can trust this content is actually this person talking to me directly, it's not AI, is more valuable now than it was 3 years ago. And that's why I think video is probably more valuable than it was 3 years ago, because it is authentic.
Yeah, I do think like where AI will be good for video I think, will be in like stock image stuff.
Yeah.
Like where like you cannot find this stock video, but you kind of need it to like fill this gap in this video, and you can just type it in and get it. That would be good, but it's not going to be good for like if I'm filming an event, you can't get an AI of what happened at that event, because the people won't be real. What they say isn't going to be real. It's not going to be trustworthy. So like, it's just no one's going to watch that, are they?
No, I agree, and I see people post things out on LinkedIn in different places where they've obviously asked for an image of something, and it comes back and it has that thing, but it has loads of other weird stuff with it, and it's just like that. It's so obviously AI that for me it's like it's not as powerful as an authentic, proper picture. And I do wonder whether that's where we'll go in the end. Like, you'll have AI content, which is quite clearly AI content, and then you'll have authentic content, which just becomes more valuable in a way. Which I think that's where video probably at the moment is even more valuable than it has been in the last few years.
Yeah, I don't know if it was me getting old, like it's just getting sick of it kind of thing, but hopefully it's not. But I don't think it will be, because people will want real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they will.
Especially video stuff and images, I think. People will want that real connection.
Well, funny enough, like the big, if you kind of have a look, like I've been reading lots about general like marketing trends of 2025, like what people think are going to be the big shifts in general marketing. And I'd love to talk about this and how it may apply to franchises and how it could be used. But like the big trend that everyone's talking about is live shopping, which is in the UK, as far as I can kind of tell, like very much in its infancy, really. However, I've got a stat. Last year in China, so in China now, live shopping is huge.
What is live shopping?
So essentially people doing live video streams selling products.
Okay.
So, for example, you might get a shoe shop doing a live video stream advertising their latest shoes. They have like loads of interactive stuff like polls, and people can ask questions. It could be they get influencers involved to do like live video.
It's like QVC, but like
yes. So it's online QVC. It's like social media QVC. And the reason it's become massive is that in China they've embedded like TikTok. Like shopping within TikTok is now becoming huge. Yeah. And they reckon by the end of next year, 20% of all purchases, B2C purchases in China, will be made on live shopping streams. Jesus. So apparently over there, it's massive. Now, we haven't seen it here yet, but Amazon have actually launched live shopping in the US. So Amazon are now doing like live video streams of products where people can go and like answer questions, and so it's a huge trend. And like everyone, like I've been reading like Gary Vaynerchuk and like loads of people like what are the big trends for 2025, and everyone's like live shopping is the thing. Like this is the big thing, and all the platforms are integrating e-commerce into them so you can buy things directly. So that's coming. It's weird because I think in other places, like if you're in China, clearly you're very used to what live shopping is. There's apparently one influencer in China who's got 200 million followers and is selling like hundreds of millions of pounds worth of product on live shopping like daily. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's QVC, but on social media.
Weird, because I don't watch QVC.
No, but this is a trend which apparently is really growing in the US as well. So it's inevitably going to come here as well. So we're going to start seeing brands on social media doing these live kind of showcases of products or services that are really engaging. They have polls, they have lots of different kind of things that you can do within them. And I just wonder, now for some franchisors that would probably work for their services, but is that the trend of how people are going to consume content moving forward? It feels like it probably is.
It's going to be fun watching this back in like December.
Yeah.
When trying to get us to explain what it is. When it's like in December we'll be able to explain it like that.
Yeah.
We should watch this back and then laugh at it.
Definitely. Like it's everything I've read has been about live shopping. I just wonder whether it comes to the point where actually this is what consumers expect. I suppose it's a cross between QVC and webinars in a way. And I kind of feel like it's webinars but in an open forum. And actually that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like you could run a discovery day as a live on your Instagram account. Yeah. And it's different. It's not going to be as closed. I think webinars are kind of closed content, aren't they? Where you can probably be a bit more open about some things that you might not want to put out into the world about the franchise opportunity. It feels like this is businesses opening up and actually going live and just projecting to the world everything about products or services live on different channels. It's like live webinars, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I do kind of feel like there is room for people to be trying that type of thing.
That's interesting. I'd be interested to see where that goes.
Yeah. It's the big thing.
So I've seen a lot of live stuff like in 2020. So yeah, to do like those kind of live streams would be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I found
Right, both our
Yeah.
laptops are going off.
I don't know why Siri's telling me about live shopping. So yeah, I think that's the thing. So yeah, weirdly, it's like, I think they're the main kind of things, aren't they? And it's hard to predict. I just think technology and trends are moving so fast. It's kind of hard to predict where we'll be at the end of the year. Like AI is obviously going to be a huge narrative for
There'll be
everything.
stuff that happens in AI that we're not aware of.
It's going to advance so quickly. But I think live shopping, and for me, for brands, like actionable things to focus on this year, I think that authentic kind of content, video content, and I think trying to get some attention into where people are at the moment, because I'm pretty sure a high proportion of your target market are spending a lot of time in reels in this video content, which you need to find a way into.
Yeah. Just thinking, what was the stuff that happened? Like, if we were sat a year ago saying what would be the big things for 2024, what would we have said? And then what was actually the big stuff?
I think at the start of 2024, I think, again, it would have been AI and it would have been content creation, wouldn't it? A lot of it. I think, I've kind of called on content creation being taken over by AI. I think that was how AI was presented to the world, wasn't it, almost? It was like, here's ChatGPT and it's brilliant for content creation. I think the reality is content creation is like 0.1% of what AI is going to do in the business world, but it's how it kind of presented itself initially. So I think that's probably one of the things we would have spoken about as a trend last year.
Yeah. And what actually happened? AI was big.
Well, people used it a lot.
Yeah.
AI was big, but actually come the end of the year, I think like we said, we can kind of call out AI content and maybe it's not as valuable as authentic. Not as good as authentic content that was created.
Nice. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think that's it. Like you say, maybe we play this back at the end of the year and see what's actually happened.
There's something you said earlier, actually, where it's like franchises should be doing like loads of different things. How can a smaller franchise do that kind of stuff, and what should they try and concentrate on?
Yeah, I mean, what we find typically, those smaller brands the first place they focus on is digital, because they gain a bit more control, they can control the budgets a bit more, and they get a proper sense of lead generation, where leads are coming from. So like Google ads and social media advertising and things like that. But I think they just need to dip their toes in as much as possible and try other avenues, whatever that may be, in franchising. It's difficult because there aren't endless amounts of places to go, but the brands that do really well have coverage everywhere. So if someone's looking for a franchise, they're going to see them here. They're going to be at the show and they're there. They're going to search for them and they find them. And that journey, I think the more times you can be seen along that decision-making journey of a potential franchisee, the better, because that journey can go on for a year for some people.
Because the people we mentioned are mentioned again and again and again, and not just by us. So it's like other people mentioning them as well. And there's a reason for that, because they're always putting themselves out there.
They're consistent and they're across multiple channels. I think that is and it's not easy, and that takes a lot of time, doesn't it? But I think that is the key to it. I think more and more the brands that are consistent, work across lots of channels, have lots of different ways of generating inquiries, are the ones that tend to do the best.
Nice. That's a nice way to sum it up. We'll be back soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Well, we're at the show at the end of the month.
We are at the show.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if anyone wants to come and say hello,
come see us.
Come see us.
Great.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mark. Thanks for listening.
Bye.